Hey everyone, this is Stephen Strawn at Cast Iron Cookware, where you can find information to help you better collect, restore, and use cast iron cookware. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on this Eddie Bauer Handy Dan styled cornstick pan, and also this Birmingham Stove and Range Handy Dan cornstick pan. And we're going to be doing that coming right up. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everyone that has purchased my product, Beezy Cast Iron Seasoning. The purchase of this product helps keep this channel going, and I just want to say thank you so very much. Now, let's get on into the video. As I said before, we're going to be working on this Eddie Bauer Trout Pan, and take a good close look at it. It looks like it has never been seasoned. Even on the back, a little bit of a stain right there where it's probably gotten wet at one time in its past, and a little bit of speckles right in here where it may have gotten wet there. So we're just going to give it a good little scrub with vinegar and water, a 50-50 vinegar water solution. Now I use 5% acidity white vinegar. So when you go 50-50, you're really dropping that stuff down to 2.5%. if that's the way the chemical math works. But we're going to give it a scrub, and we're not going to soak it. We're just going to give it a scrub probably for about 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to do a little more on this little Handy Dan cornstick pan. Now it looks like it has never been used because you can see bare metal. Now there may have been some seasoning. I think it's probably the factory seasoning that was on it, and it just became rancid, and we have some rust. I've got a feeling we're going to be able to just scrub this down. Now if we can't get it looking good by just scrubbing it with a vinegar water solution and then soap and water, we may stick it in the electrolysis tank. But I'm going to try scrubbing it first. So I'll be back in just a few minutes after the scrub, and we'll take a look at the results. Well, just as I suspected, that neither one of these pieces have been used before. Now, I'm still a little bit wet from washing, but I still have some stains. But the rust, what little bit of rust there was, it was mostly staining on this one. There was a little more rust on the surface of this Handy Dan, but I cleaned it really well with dish soap and also used an SOS pad. Now a lot of people ask me, what is an SOS pad? Apparently SOS pads are only used in the South, so they're pretty much the same thing as a Brillo pad. For those of you in other countries and overseas, it is basically a soap infused steel wool pad. So at this point we have two pieces that are basically down to bare metal, except for the stains, and those are going to be there, and you're not going to get rid of those. So I'm going to be using Beezy Cast Iron Seasoning. Now you can use whatever oil that you choose, but I personally prefer it. Even though it's my product, I just think it does a great job. But I'm going to put it in the oven and let it get hot. But once I get them up to 250 to 300 degrees, I'm going to bring them back in here in front of the camera, and we're going to show the first layer of seasoning in the process. Okay, I've got them out of the oven, and they're both really, really warm. And I'm using oven mitts because they're about 250 to 300 degrees. I took them out of a 300-degree oven, but they've cooled down a little bit since I brought them in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the camera down and take a look at how we apply our first coat. I'm going to get my first pan, and I'm going to apply a little bit of Beezy. Actually, I need to put this down because it's getting warm. A little bit on the front, a little bit on the back. And I have my first cloth which is a used t-shirt. And I'm going to make sure I got a good coat all the way over. And I've used this little piece of t-shirt before, so there is a little bit of Easy Beezy infused. In my cloth. Okay. The key is to make sure that there is a little bit of seasoning oil on every part of the cast iron, even down in the crevices. It's one reason why you heat the cast iron up. I've heard people say it's because you need to open up the pores. But cast iron isn't porous. It's mainly to make sure that the oil runs a lot thinner. That way it will coat it a lot better. Now I have rubbed it in completely with a cloth that has a liberal amount of Easy Beezy on it. Now I got a cloth that is completely dry, that doesn't have any seasoning on it at all. And I'm going to go back and rub away as much of the oil as I possibly can. Just remember, less is best. One of the biggest problems with seasoning cast iron is having too much oil. You can wipe away until you believe that you've got every bit of it removed, and there's still a microscopic layer. And that's what you want. So there's the Handy Dan. Now let's work on this Eddie Bauer. We'll go back to our cloth that already has a good bit infused. We're going to make sure that every little bit of it is covered. And if we're not sure, just go ahead and add a little more. What I find to be really helpful is just a simple Q-tip, especially when it comes to these little bitty nooks and crannies, places you can't really get your cloth in. I'm going to turn this thing over. I like to run down the crevices. The first step is make sure you have complete coverage. Okay, let's do away with our application cloth. Now, let's take our drying cloth, or what you'd want to call it, and we'll get rid of as much of the oil as we possibly can. And then we'll go back with some dry cotton swabs. And we'll try to dry off any excess that may be in the middle. Now your cotton swab will probably start coming apart, so you'll need quite a few. Now let's take our little cotton swabs and get all the little places that we couldn't wipe off with our cloth. So we're going back in the oven at 500 degrees for 1 hour. So I'll see you in about an hour and we'll see what kind of effect we have. Okay, I just got them out of the oven and they're still quite warm. This is the Eddie Bauer piece, front and back. You can still see the little stain. And here is the Handy Dan Cornstick pan. So, they look really nice, but we're going to go ahead and start a second coating. We're going to go ahead and give our Handy Dan, a little bit of a swipe, and we're going to go ahead and give our Eddie Bauer a little bit of a swipe. And I'm going to take my Q-tips and get in all the little crannies. Make sure it's covered all over. Now we're going to go back to our cloth that is fairly clean, and we're going to wipe off as much of the excess as we can. We're going to take these and put them back in the oven again at 500 degrees for 1 hour. So let's check them out in 1 more hour. Okay, we got our pans out of the oven again for the second round, but I'm going to go ahead and hold these up and look, they're starting to look nice. Now if you notice, the Eddie Bauer Trout Pan has a little more of a bronze color, and that is kind of what you will see with a lot of cast iron. Some of the older cast iron will turn black quicker than the newer pieces, and then sometimes you just never know. The makeup of the iron just receives it better. But let's take a look at this Eddie Bauer. It's looking really good. You almost can't even see the specks where the staining was. And on the back, the place that was really bad, it's still darker than the rest, but it will eventually level out. And our Handy Dan right here, it is looking nice and black already, just with 2 rounds. So we're going to go ahead and pull our camera down and get a closer look and apply our 3rd round of seasoning. Let's give our Handy Dan a good rub down with seasoning. Let's do the same for our Eddie Bauer. And just like earlier, we want to make sure that we get all the little nooks and crannies covered. With this Eddie Bauer, it's really the bottom and upper lip and the tips of the tails that are most important. Now, we're going to wipe away and buff away even all of the excess. I'm going to keep turning my cloth just to make sure I'm getting a dry area. We want to get rid of all of the shine, all of the shimmer. Less is best. I'm actually starting to hear that phrase a little bit on some of the social media sites. One of my most asked questions is, why is my cast iron coming out splotchy? And the answer is always, you didn't remove enough seasoning oil. Okay, it's late, it's almost midnight. Doing these videos, you just never know when you're going to get done. But I'm going to go ahead and put these back in the oven and run them for a cycle of 1 hour at 500 degrees. I will check on it again tomorrow and we'll show you the final results. The final results for 3 rounds. And I will say this, when you put these in the oven to be seasoned, always turn them face down. That will let any extra oil that you have drip out. Now, if you've done your job and you wiped it good, it doesn't really matter. So in the oven they go, and then we'll look at them tomorrow and see the final results. So we'll see then. Okay, we finally got our pans out and they've cooled. I got them out this morning after they cooled all night, and they look really good. There's the front and the back. Now we have a little bit of a bronze color with the Eddie Bauer Trout Pan. You see it getting darker there where the little lines are at. And we still have a little bit of a stain right there, but it will go away and looks really nice. This one here looks a little blacker, the Handy Dan. And on the back side, this one turned out really, really nice. They both turned out really nice. That is 3 rounds of seasoning. Of course, I used the Beezy Cast Iron Seasoning, but you should still get good results no matter what kind of oil you use. Some oils are a little better than others, and the blends seem to be a little better than just the plain oils. The particular blend that I use, I really worked on that and dialed it in, and it done a great job. And when it comes to seasoning pieces like this, just bear in mind that when you season a pan, like this one right here, it still has a little bit of a bronze color. Some pieces just tend to do that, and they'll get black more and more as time goes by, especially with use. I'm sure I will use this sometime or another because I think it will be a lot of fun, especially for the grandkids. But I'm going to be displaying this, and I'm not going to wipe it down with any oil. I'm going to leave it dry on my wall. It has 3 layers of seasoning, and it should hold up great for display. And the same way with this Handy Dan. Of course, I'll be using it too occasionally. But whenever I season a piece like this, I'll leave it dry and I don't go ahead and put the oil on it because it may be quite a while before I use it. And with that case, most oils will turn rancid after a while and they will get sticky and gummy. The good thing about a wax base, like a beeswax base with my Easy Beezy, is it takes much, much longer for that to happen. So they're great for displaying. Now, when you season a piece of cast iron, like I did here without cooking, you're just kind of getting it ready to start cooking. So it will get better and better as time goes by. Just remember one of the most important rules when it comes to seasoning, and that is less is best. If you stick to that rule when seasoning cast iron, chances are most of the time your seasoning is going to come out great. So thank you again for watching Cast Iron Cookware, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I promise I'll keep more of them coming. You can also find Cast Iron Cookware on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can check out the Cast Iron Cookware group. I think we're up to like 14,000 members and really good people who love cast iron and love sharing. So check that out. I will leave a link in the video description to every one of these sites. Also, don't forget, my Easy Beezy eventually is going to migrate to easybeezy.com. Currently, it is on cicookware.com. And once we do migrate to easybeezy.com, the cicookware.com will still work. It will just redirect you to the Easy Beezy. So check that out as well. And thank you again for watching Cast Iron Cookware. Before you go, I just want to share something with you really quickly. In Proverbs chapter 16, verse 7, it says, "When a man's ways please the Lord, he maketh even his enemies to be at peace with him." I just want to say, share the word and be a blessing.